Hey everybody, it is Lorelia coming to you today with the topic of business funding does not replace business acumen. And what do I mean by that today? So, today I'm going to have a little different conversation than what I usually talk about, and that is in regards to business credit, personal credit, or just leveraging credit for real estate. And although that is what I primarily talk about on this channel, I'm going to talk about it in another aspect. And that's why I thought that this topic would be very necessary to have because there is a lot of confusion always. I always say that in the marketplace. And one of the confusing things that I have encountered or that I see from people who are seeking funding is that they really don't understand business. um, I'm going to just take with what I do and how I help people in terms of helping them to leverage credit to invest in real estate. And I know my last video, I talked about why an LLC, a EIN, a bank statement is not necessary, and that you can still be able to do a deal, get access to money without having all of that. And so that led me to this conversation because although, like I stated in the last video, those things are not needed, but what is needed and what is the number one thing that you need is to really understand business. You need to, if you're looking to leverage credit to invest in real estate, you really need to understand the deal flow of what it is that you're doing. And the reason why I said you want to have some understanding of it, the biggest fallacy is, and reason why I say a fallacy, because in people's mind, they have created the barrier of getting access to six figures and funding being so such a arduous task, such a hard task to get to, that they totally discount having to understand of real estate and business. So in their minds, they're really thinking, well, let me just get the money. And when I get the money, when I get the funding, then I will worry about the business aspect of it. I will worry about the real estate aspect of it. And I'm here to tell you, and I know many of your gurus will not tell you, they'll sell you a dream. That is the fastest way to really screw up. And the reason why I say to screw up is because everything that I talk about is real life. So Thursday, having a conversation with my client, um, you know, she came to me. I was able to assist her with giving a large amount of funding to invest in real estate over six figures. 98,000 of that funding came from just credit cards. So I'm gonna be very transparent. It came from credit cards. That's not the other parts of the funding that part of the whole package. But just the credit cards alone was $98,000. Now, most people here on, and I know I'm streaming on a few platforms, but most of the people in the marketplace, they're going to help you get 10,000. They're going to help you get 15. They may even help you get 20. And I always say that once you get beyond the 50 to 60,000 point, I mean, 50 and $60,000 in funding, that's a whole nother dynamic. And that's why I say I don't swim in the box of the 10 and the 15,000. So I say all that to say, to get back to the story. Now that she's leveraged the credit, purchased the real estate, doing her thing, has tenants in the property, working on the other. She is doing what is necessary, in terms of her vision with real estate. Have leveraged the credit, was able to purchase real estate, or what have you. Now, the other wave of it, because I always teach people, is that This is a stepping stone and it's going to launch you to something bigger. So, the launching to something bigger, that in her local market, she is going to be getting not only one, but two lines of credit from the properties that she had that will truly be in her business name. Now, why do I say all that? I say all that because the banker that she was talking to was very impressed with how she was able to acquire these real estate, acquire real estate using the method that I share with people, to leverage credit to invest in real estate. And the banker said is that we know this exists from a theoretical standpoint, but to actually see someone who has the obedience, who has the patience, who has the wherewithal to pull it off and not drop the ball, says a lot. And that is why I say funding, business funding does not replace business acumen, because most people do not have the discipline. They don't have the discipline to really understand what it takes to manage that amount of funding along with building a business. Now, I know your gurus are telling you that you don't even need to worry about that. There's some way magically that when you get all this funding, you will become a business whiz kid, or you will become a real estate whiz kid. And that is not the case, because I tell people, if you're new to real estate and now you're using this money to leverage or to launch you into your real estate endeavor, understand what you're taking on. You are taking on two mammoths. You're taking on the mammoth of, there's a learning curve that I have to take on with real estate. And then there is the other mammoth of, I still have to always manage this money. Because once again, most people are basing their journey, whether it's accessing funding, getting started in real estate, on the success of the guru that they're following. And many of those gurus will not tell you that they're in chapter 25. They've made their mistakes and they've had some hits, they've had some misses, but now they got it. So now you're starting at your chapter one and you think it's going to be so smooth sailing. And that's why I'm going to be the voice of reason. I rather tell you the hard truth instead of a sweet lie. Business funding does not replace business acumen. And I know that that statement is not salacious, it's not glamorous, it is real talk, because my new cohort of students that I have now, I am letting them know that when you get this funding, game on. The bill is due the next month. So you get the funding in April, rest assured, the bill is due in May. There ain't no, I want to kind of see how this works, you know. Or wanna research how this real estate thing works. It's game on. Now you can do that, but also understand, it goes back to what I said. You're managing two different mammoths. You're managing over six figures in funding that has to be paid, and then you are managing you launching the real estate business if you have it. Now, that scenario can be different for someone who has some traction. That's why I tell students or prospects or during a consultation that there are two different pools of people that I work with. There are some people that they have something going in real estate. They're doing deals, they have did deals, And now getting access to the funding is just going to put some gas on their fire and blast off. They kind of got their mojo going. But then there are some who this wave of funding is now going to be their launching pad. And I let them know that understand you're managing two different things. You're managing the business of real estate, and then you are managing the business of funding. So me helping clients get a six-figure, creating a six-figure qualified funding entity that you've heard me say is a QFE is much bigger than the person who telling you go to this website to get you a $10,000 car. Nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with that. If that is where you are at and that's what you need is to get a $10,000 to $15,000 car, by all means start there. But don't think the worst thing that you want to do is get a whole bunch of funding and then try to say, now I'm going to see how this business thing works. Because that's really where most people are. I get it. Most people have never even had access to $20,000 on a piece of plastic. So the whole idea of possibly getting six figures or anything north of 100,000 is mind blowing. And my point of this whole video is to really bring home to you that business acumen does not business funding does not replace business acumen. And you want to be cautious of that because and this is what I tell people, leveraging funding and then going back to with my client and the conversation that she had with her local banker is that he even knew that that strategy takes a lot of discipline. Most people don't have the discipline. Some way or the other, most people are going to drop the ball. And let me tell you why most people drop the ball. Because in some people's minds, they'll have this conversation of, well, I just want business credit only in my business name, and it's not attached to my personal. And let me tell you where that mindset comes from. And this is where I know I'm going to lose a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to tune me out. That comes from the mindset of people who want to blow the bag. That's right, I said it. They want to blow the bag. They want to get access to a whole bunch of funding. They want to blow the bag and then not be responsible for it. Hey, how you doing, Leon? Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining today. That's where that mindset comes from. Because this is my answer to this. If you have the business acumen and you understand how this vision of yours is supposed to work in terms of real estate, you leveraging credit, whether it's from the personal, whether it's from the business, don't matter. Now, caveat, it goes back to a video that I did a few videos back. Now, it does matter depending on the strategy that you're using. Because if you are bought into, and there's nothing wrong with it, it's 100 ways to skin a cat. But if you are someone who wants to use FHA, 3% down to get into a real estate deal, leveraging credit ain't it. So let me just tell you, I know your gurus are putting up very pretty memes, on Instagram, little sound bites and stuff. But don't get caught behind the eight ball. Don't be trying to leverage no credit and you doing something on FHA. You better be sure it's totally on your business and it's not tied to your personal. I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you that now because FHA does look at debt to income ratio. But any type of investor loans that are backed by private equity groups, I'm not talking about banking. A lot of people do not know this. Many creative financing type mortgages that may be commercial, that may be for multifamilies, that may be for short-term rentals, that may be for fix and flip. Many of those funding entities that lend to individuals are backed by private equity. Very rare is it going to be backed by a major bank. So what does that mean? What it means is that you have more creativity in that area. You have more creativity in terms of how you fund the deal for, as I mentioned, fix and flip, short-term rentals, commercial, multifamilies, as opposed to you getting a government-backed FHA loan, VA loan, a 203K loan, which is a construction loan with the FHA dynamic to it. There is no gray area there. They're going to, although credit score it's could be minimum, because what is it, 580, 620 for FHA, 3% down, but there's no room for creativity. 9 times out of 10, it's really hard to get an FHA loan if you're self-employed, especially if you're not paying yourself with a paycheck. Not saying it can't be done, but it's much more difficult. FHA really appeals to people who work a W 2 job where there is documented W 2s. But see, when you get into the pool of investor type loans, there is some room for creativity. There is some room for a self employed person. And I'm not talking about a self employed person who have tax returns and bank statements. There's still some creativity that can be done to get a business owner or real estate investor into doing those type of loans. Remember, commercial, short-term rentals, fix and flips, multifamilies, and you don't need to show tax returns and bank statements. There's room for creativity. That is where the advantage of leveraging funding comes from. But the whole point is, doesn't replace business acumen. So that's why what I'm noticing now, and understand the pendulum of funding is shifting, because people who are smarter than me, people who listening and watching what's going on, and when I say smarter than me, meaning that they're billion-dollar entities, lending institutions, are making it very easy. And this is how I'm gonna bring it all together for you to get funding. I'm getting a lot of calls where people are now seeing, you know what, really, the funding wasn't hard to get, but I'm in a bad loan. Because now they're making the funding easier to get, but your terms are all screwed up. You got bad terms. Some of the terms are borderline predatory. And I said this in a video before, and I won't put any genders or names out there, but all I can say is a very big influencer on Instagram. And I guess the person was helping people get funding, and the people wasn't happy with the funding they got. And the person response is, I'm not going to say if it was man or woman, but the person response is, well, you got the funding. Their job was not to explain to you, um, hey, how you doing, Sherry? Hi, Loria. Thank you. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. And so the influencer said it's not the lender's job to explain to you what type of funding. So now there's a whole nother dynamic that's coming up the pipeline now. Because you had a few years ago, people really thought funding was hard to get. People are noticing it ain't that hard. Now it's a matter of how much funding you want. You see what I'm saying? You know, there's plenty of people on YouTube that's helping people get 10, 15, 20. I don't play in that, in that sandbox. And now, helping people get up to six figures is it's almost not that hard either. But now the difference is the terms. Am I getting fair terms? And this is what I tell people. And this is once again, people don't know this. The best terms are your bank, but most people, they can't get the bank terms. Why? Because if they could, they would not be looking on YouTube. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. Even coming to me, like I tell people, if you know you can get the best terms, you shouldn't be talking to me. Go talk to your bank. But this is the part that people don't know. It's like I told my client Thursday. Leveraging someone like myself to help you to get access to funding on the secondary market, which can launch your real estate business. Now you have, you have two things. You have leverage credit the right way. You didn't buy something, consumerism. You bought something that one is a tax write-off, depreciation, and it hedges against inflation. The second part of it is that you now can use that funding because you are now in place. You have something going. You got a vehicle going, and now you can go to a bank and get the best terms because now you have something to leverage. See, the problem is that people want the best terms and they just starting out. And there are people who are doing deals and who can't get the best terms. And they don't even know that. And the reason why they can't even get the best terms, even though they have been in real estate, is that's a whole nother conversation because they may not have been set up. So the point of the matter is what I'm saying in all this is funding don't replace business acumen. Got to have both hats. And I know it's not cute and it's not salacious and it doesn't appeal to the gram, but it's real talk. Because other than that, you're going to be someone who got a lot of funding, didn't know what to do with it, and now you stuck holding the bag and got to pay it off, pay it back, which I get. That's what you should do. Some people will pay it back. Some people will just be like, whatever. And now you're bitter because you didn't launch what you wanted, which was launch your real estate. And now you're stuck holding, this debt that you have to pay off. And usually when people get into those situations is that they didn't understand that business acumen was part of it. It wasn't just the funding. If you really think the funding is going to replace your knowledge and understanding of the business of whatever you want to do in real estate. I have a client right now wants to do short-term rentals. I asked the person, not going to say man, lady, or whatever, how you going to get the first person into your short-term rental once you get this money? Because the money's due. You still teeter-tottering on what you want to do with short-term rentals. The banks don't care about all that. Payments still due. And that's the part of it. So now, I have her wheels spinning because now, the person never thought about all that. All they thought was short-term rentals. Some way I'm gonna get this funding, and and it is going to, create a wire in my brain where I'm just gonna get it. No, that's not how. That's why I tell people, 6 figures in funding is not for the faint at heart. That's why I'm very clear on who I can help and who I can't. Because for some people, they don't need to have 6 figures in funding. They don't need to. Because it is a very disciplined strategy. Using that amount, it's a very disciplined strategy, and it's not for the faint at heart. So that is all that I have. I stayed longer than I wanted, but you still have time. If you like what I'm talking about today, go to www.neverloseadealevents.com. Upcoming this Saturday, we'll be doing a workshop. Bring your deals. Let's talk about them. Let's see how we can get you funding so you can get into the deal. We're in the second quarter. And so, if doing deals and leveraging credit was something that you wanted to do in 2021, but it hasn't jumped off, it's 2022, you still haven't figured it out. Links will be below, maybe for you and may not. But other than that, glad that you can, I'm glad you had the chance to watch the video. Thanks to anybody who watches the replay. And thank you for those who did comment today. All right, until the next video. Okay, bye-bye.